brain. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still alive, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Cameras start to click, we know what creating something new. So go Marty and Sarah and Mark and Matt, Owen, Smitty, McCrilly and Jamie Lane in the Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. Stop the clock, we're done, we're rolling. Sound the horn and sing that we are going. 27 hours, that is the time. So let's hop on the bus and let it shine, 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 shine. Say sha la 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 la, 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 sha la 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 Good morning, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. Lord Jesus, we tried to get the stream up and going at 11 a.m. as promised. But oh no, there were problems with the microphone. There were problems with the video camera. And boy, did that piss the Bandido off. I was very pissed off, I must say. But we did make it. We have made it. We've been on a little hiatus, a little break. And of course, what did I say on our very last live stream? What did I say? The Bandido was going to live stream every day, Monday to Thursday on Rumble at 11 a.m., Friday to Sunday on YouTube at 11 a.m. And the Bandido said on his most recent live stream, episode 34, he said that a significant event would have to happen in the Bandido's existence for him not to be live streaming every day from Monday to Sunday at 11 a.m. on our two distinct platforms, Rumble and YouTube. And lo and behold, the universe was very giving. The universe has given the Bandido his very significant event. The significant event being, of course, that the Bandido's father has now passed away. The Bandido is fatherless. He had his significant event. It happened last week. It happened last Thursday. Now, of course, you do want to believe that such things are never going to happen. But this is what we're going to get into this morning, let's just say. There are plenty of lessons to be extracted from what has happened in the last, let's say 8 days, and even in the lead up to the Bandido's father passing. And that's what we're on here to do. Because folks, whether you like it or not, we cannot get up when things are all rosy, when it's all sunshine and rainbows. The Bandido can't sit here, and many other people who get online and give it the big one on their episodes, they can't just be giving it the big one whenever things are going well. Because lessons cannot only be extracted from the good, but they can also be extracted from the not so good. And we would have to say, when we have a loved one or someone that we care about that has passed away recently, that sort of a situation would go into the category of being the not so good. We don't want it to happen, but it does happen. And so we cannot be cowards. The Bandido may be many things, but he is certainly not a coward. And he is not someone who gets on here on YouTube or Rumble, or even here in the real world when he is talking with people. He's not one of these people who gives it, let's say, a whole bunch of meaningless garbage talk. The Bandido isn't someone who just talks garbage because when things are going well for him, he permits himself to talk crap. Oh no. When things are going good, the Bandido will be the Bandido, and he will try to do his very best. When things are not going so good, he will be consistent. Consistent meaning that when things are not so good, such as a loved one passing away, wouldn't it be cowardly for me to just say, oh well, isn't this terrible? I'm just not going to do Bandido Talks anymore because this terrible thing has happened. And so as a result, I'm going to cower away into my little hole. And all the other episodes that I've done, when we've been talking about politicians, when we've been talking about world events, when the Bandido has been here giving it the big one, wouldn't it make the Bandido a coward that when things are not going so well in his own existence, that he wouldn't have the courage to try and look for the lessons in the not so good? And so that's why we are here. We are back on track again. Obviously, as I said in the last episode, it was going to take a significant event for the Bandido not to be here for a few days. And that is exactly what has ended up happening. The Bandido has been out of commission for, let's say, the last 10 days, because there have been a whole bunch of things going on. We're going to get into all of this over the next 3 episodes. This is part 1 of a 3-part series called When Your Dad Dies. And we're going to go down through a whole bunch of really useful information. Go down through all of this information, all of this stuff that we can, let's just say, sift our way through and find the lessons. Because folks, as I said in the intro, you can extract lessons from the good. That's fine. And you can extract lessons from things whenever everything's going smoothly in your own existence. But folks, we must be professional and we must be paying attention. Because when things aren't going so good, guess what? There are a whole bunch of lessons to be learned in the not so good as well. And this is the thing. We don't want to put the blinkers on. Because who ends up losing out when we put the blinkers on? You lose out. I will lose out if I did that. And so we don't want to be putting the blinkers on. We're going to go down through all of this. We have a good 3-part series coming your direction, covering everything to do with the Bandido's father's passing. There are many lessons to extract out of this recent event. It only happened last week. I was actually thinking of going live earlier this week, but then I thought, I have some things to tie up, people to talk to, things to do. Friday morning seemed like a good opportunity to come on. And of course, as I come on Friday morning, the microphone doesn't work, The camera is getting all steamy for some reason. Things go wrong, and the Bandido was pissed off. But now he's on. And we're going to get stuck into part 1 of this 3-part series. When your dad dies. Now, before we get into it, folks, I want to encourage you. If you enjoy what we do here on Bandido Talks, if you like what it is that we do, then feel free to like the live stream. Your charity is always welcome. Again, folks, if you are joining us live here at 11:30 Irish time in the morning, then feel free to get into the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything that we are going to talk about here this morning. There are many lessons that are going to be extracted across the next 3 episodes. And if you are joining us live, get into the live chat. Let me know what you think in real time. Also, folks, if you are watching this stream after the live event has concluded, then get down into the comments section. The same thing applies. Let me know what you think with regards to everything that we are going to talk about this morning. And then finally, last but not least, if you like what we actually do generally here on Bandido Talks, if you find it useful, insightful, valuable, or interesting in some way, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. There are many bits of content coming your direction. Subscribe, you will be notified of any new videos, new live streams, new music that will be coming your direction. New original music, that is. So anyway, with all of that out of the road, let us get into this morning's show. Okay, so here is the Bandido. About what? 8 days after his father has died. We have this 3-part series that we're going to do. We're going to start it this morning, part 1, called No Regrets. We will do part 2 tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And then we will do part 3 on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. So part 1, no regrets. So let's get into this and let's see what we can learn. What can you learn? Because perhaps you are watching this and maybe all the people in your life that you care about are still living. Maybe you have lost some people that you care about as well. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you lie on here. There will be lessons that you can take away from this live stream and you can apply them to your own existence. If you already have all of the loved ones that you care about in your existence right now, and none of them have passed away, then I think this would be particularly useful for you because we don't want people to get complacent or sloppy. And so that's what we're going to get into here. Now, of course, let me just give you a very brief character reference for who the Bandido's father was and what he was getting up to in his own existence. So, in May 2024, the Bandido's father, Mattie Lennon, the great, magnificent Mattie Lennon, he was diagnosed with cancer back in May 2024. He had a big operation, a big, ugly operation. Mattie was very lucky to get off the operating table with his life intact. Not a lot of people know that. But in May 2024, Mattie had to go in for emergency surgery. And the emergency surgery was to do with a blockage. It was colon cancer. So there was a tumor in his sigmoid colon. And this was creating an obstruction. It was creating a problem. And gas was backing up the colon. And he had a big inflated abdomen. So he had to go in for emergency surgery. He couldn't eat. He had lost a whole bunch of weight. So he goes into the hospital. They run their CT scans. It looks like it's going to be a routine procedure. That's what it looks like. I was over in Spain at the time with my brother, and I get the phone call. Oh, well, your father's about to go in for emergency surgery. So naturally enough, this is at about 11:30 at night. over in Spain. It was actually lucky that I actually answered the phone at all. It was my mother who had called me. So anyway, I talked to my mother on the phone from Spain. Mattie is on the little wheelie trolley that's going to bring him into theatre to have the operation. And so I chat to my mother, and then my mother allows me to chat to the local doctor who's looking after Mattie's case. And so I asked the doctor a whole bunch of questions to try and get as much information as possible, because I'm in Spain, I'm not in Ireland, where the surgery is about to take place, the emergency surgery. So I speak to the doctor on the phone. The doctor says, it looks like a routine procedure. We deal with this every week, multiple times a week. We have people who have large masses in their colon, most likely a tumour. And what we do is we go in, we remove the part of the colon that is affected by the tumour. In my dad's case, that was the sigmoid colon. So the doctor said we will remove that part of the colon that is affected by the tumour. He will have a temporary stoma, and then there will be a reconnection surgery that can happen at some stage in the future. The tumour will be removed. It's a routine procedure. That is what I was told on the phone when I was over in Spain. Now, fast forward to the next morning. Something strange has happened, because all of a sudden, what was meant to be a routine procedure, all of a sudden was not routine. It got more complicated. And so Mattie finds himself, my dad Mattie finds himself in a pickle on the operating table, because according to all of the information that I could gather, this was supposed to be a routine surgery, a couple of hours. It's performed routinely. I asked all of my questions. I chatted with Mattie before he went into the surgery. I explained to him from Spain on the phone, standard surgery. They're going to take away a part of the colon, which is affected by the tumour. And then you'll be good to go. Fast forward to the next morning. Something has happened in the surgery. Now you might say, well, how do you know something happened? Well, see, this is the thing, folks. I asked the doctor all the questions. The doctor was very certain that it was a routine procedure. They had done multiple CT scans. What does a CT scan do, folks? It looks at the internal structure of the body. And according to the CT scans, it looked like there was a mass in the sigmoid colon. Nothing unusual, nothing strange, no structural abnormalities. So Mattie goes into the procedure, and it's a mess, an absolute mess. He loses his entire colon. He loses his appendix. He loses a part of his small intestine. He loses 54 lymph nodes. Doesn't sound routine to me. So, why am I even saying this? Well, again, I'm trying to give you a character reference. Mattie Lennon may as well have died on the operating table. Why did the surgery become complicated? One of the great mysteries of the universe, folks. I wonder what could have happened to make the surgery more complicated when the CT scans clearly showed there was no structural abnormality. The colon hadn't lost its shape. Yes, there was a mass in the sigmoid colon, that is true. His abdomen was distended, that's true. But there was nothing strange, and the doctor was oh so confident and said, it's a routine procedure. So something clearly happened between me talking on the phone to Mattie before he's wheeled in for the operation and then during the operation. I wonder what could have happened. Well, folks, for any of you who are aware of what it means to be a human being, Mistakes can be made, of course, and one would have to speculate. Was there a mistake made in Mattie's surgery? Of course, we will never find this out. This will remain a mystery, housed by the universe. But all I can tell you is that Mattie Lennon was very lucky to leave with his life on the 26th of May, 2024. Somehow the man pulled through. And maybe that's all you need to know as a character reference for Mattie Lennon. He may as well have died on the operating table. His surgery went for almost 5 hours. I've already explained the amount of tissue that he lost. His colon, all of his colon, part of his small intestine, his appendix, all the tissue around the colon, 54 lymph nodes. Remember, folks, you're only really supposed to take 12 to 16 lymph nodes in a surgery. But oh no, 54 lymph nodes went out of Mattie's body. So, Mattie Lennon not only made it out of the surgery, but typical Mattie style, he made a full recovery. A full recovery. A near-death surgery. Was there a mistake in the surgery? Well, all I know is that before the surgery, it was routine. So you make of that what you wish. I was assured that it was routine. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't routine. The CT scans indicated that it was routine. So what else can we deduce? I'll leave that up to you. Are humans prone to making errors? And better still, when a human makes an error, how many humans have the humility to own up to their error or mistake? Not that many. And even with all of that, all that tissue that Mattie lost, the big surgery that was supposed to be routine, he still pulled through. And not only did he pull through, but he made a full recovery. He had his big war wound up the middle of his abdomen. And then pretty much from June 2024, right the way up to the end of the year, the man made a full recovery. He put all the weight back on again. His body seemed to adjust to this very modified digestive tract and generally very modified internal anatomy because he has lost a lot of tissue. We all talk about the gut microbiome, how important those little microbes in your colon are. Well, Mattie had no colon. He lost all of his colon. So all of that gut microflora, you know the way people talk about the gut-brain connection? Well, Mattie has no gut. He lost his entire colon, and he lost a part of his small intestine too. Along with his appendix, all 54 lymph nodes that were taken out, as well as all of the surrounding tissue. And the man still rebounded. He put all the weight back on, he was back running in 3 months. 3 months is all it took for the man to get back up and going, weight back on, back running. So, we get to the end of the year. Things look good. Then we get into 2025. And in February 2025, we get the news that Mattie's liver is now involved. There's been spread to the liver. Okay, not ideal, not what we want. But again, even with more bad news, if we want to use the word bad, challenging news, we could perhaps say, Mattie once again makes another rebound. March, April, May, June, July, August of 2025, he rebounds. He puts on even more healthy weight, starts to put on muscle. starts a bit of treatment. And of course, folks, Mattie, for those of you who do not know him, I'm trying to outline what has happened in the last 18 months. He has this big ugly primary surgery in May 2024. Then he gets a new diagnosis in February 2025. You have liver metastases. You have metastases in your lymph nodes, your ileal mesenteric lymph nodes. Also have metastatic deposits. And what does the man do? He gets busy living. He gets a good team around him. I was part of the team, just one member of the team. He gets people around him who he trusts. And so we get him started on a treatment with very few side effects. Mattie was able to live out his existence side effect free. He did not have a grisly, ugly decline. That did not happen. The man rebounded every time there was negative feedback from conventional medical folk. Oh, and believe me, folks, the conventional medical oncologists, there's nothing that makes them happier, it would seem, than to deliver negative feedback. I'm only speaking from my own personal experience. I'm not saying that all conventional medical oncologists are like this. But boy, were they so happy to tell Mattie, you're cooked. You're going to die. You need palliative treatment. They really enjoy rubbing salt in the wounds of the patient. No hope, no optimism. All the conventional oncologists could tell Mattie was, you're a dead man in a few months. And they seemed happy about it. Maybe my sense of perception is off, but they seemed happy about it. And then when you ask them a few questions about other alternative modes of treatment, because you have evidence that their standard treatment isn't going to work. And when you present your evidence and you ask a few questions, what do the conventional oncologists do? They get angry and pissed off, and they try to tramp you into the ground because they are pieces of shit. Pieces of shit. I'm not saying all oncologists are pieces of shit, but the oncologists that Mattie dealt with specifically, pieces of shit. Not helpful, not hopeful, not optimistic. Their bedside manner was atrocious. And even with all of this negative feedback, what did Mattie Lennon do? Did he succumb to their own interpretation of what was going to happen to him? Absolutely not. He got busy living. He assembled the right team around him. Despite all the negative feedback, most people would be destroyed at this stage. You've been through this big ugly surgery, a very suspicious surgery that all of a sudden became complicated for some reason. Even though we were told it's a routine surgery, all of a sudden it becomes complicated. Mattie loses all of this tissue, but he makes the recovery. And he's back on track by December that year. Then he gets a new diagnosis. Liver metastases, ileal mesenteric lymph node metastases. You're going to die. You need palliative care. No other treatment is going to work. You're a dead man. Get your affairs in order. That's the kind of feedback that Mattie Lennon was receiving. What did he do? He stood up, got the right team around him, and got busy living. And that's what he did right until the end of his life. And this is the thing, folks. I'm giving you an idea of the last 18 months. The shit that's been thrown Mattie's direction. He was back out running. He was back out managing his teams, doing the things that he wanted to do, spending time with people who he cared about, myself included, his own wife, my brother, his other friends and wider family. In the face of all of this negative feedback, in the face of the worst case scenario, because folks, this is the worst case scenario. I think all of us would perhaps agree that when you are given a terminal cancer diagnosis, it doesn't come much worse than that from a psychological standpoint. Psychologically, it doesn't come much worse than that. You are going to die. You have terminal cancer. What did Mattie do? Assembled his team and got busy living. And this is what we're going to get into here. Because prior to Mattie's illness, what sort of a character was he? Well, he was the exact same character that he was throughout the illness. This is the thing. Highly industrious. Always trying to be productive. Always busy. Always trying to do his best. Always trying to be useful and valuable to other people. Just an all-round, decent human being. But that's one thing that Mattie always did throughout his entire life, and he did it throughout the last 18 months. He lived. He didn't just cower in the corner, sulk and cry, and sort of bemoan or begrudge the fact that the universe has bestowed this situation upon him. Throughout this process, the last 18 months and throughout his whole life, as long as I've known him, probably 23 good conscious years, you could say, that I've known him. Always extremely industrious, always busy, always doing things, always running experiments. What do we talk about here on the show, folks? Don't live in the land of theory. You need to take your theory and practically apply it in the real world by running experiments. Why do you need to run experiments? Because you need feedback. Feedback is your guiding light. And that is exactly what Mattie Lennon did. He ran experiments. He was the epitome of running experiments. He was never, let's just say, intimidated by the prospect of failure. He was never intimidated by taking on a challenge, by running an experiment in order to get feedback. Sometimes he was victorious, sometimes he wasn't. Sometimes his experiment gave him feedback that said, actually, that thing that you're trying to do, you need to change direction. Sometimes he would get very positive feedback. But that's what he always did. He always ran experiments. He was always busy running experiments. Why is this so important? It's important because Mattie was always receiving feedback. Constantly. Every day, every week. He was never living in the land of theory. He never just watched videos on YouTube or read books and never took any action. He was always taking action. He would get feedback on something, he would get information about something, then he would run an experiment. Now, sometimes he would run the experiment well, sometimes he wouldn't. But that's the whole point of running experiments. You get feedback. You learn with experience how to run better experiments. So, Mattie, throughout the last 18 months, is the same Mattie Lennon prior to his diagnosis, prior to that initial big ugly surgery. He was always being industrious, trying to be valuable to other people, trying to offload his own wisdom. And now he was an extremely fit individual, especially from his 50s onwards. He really honed in on his own lifestyle and his health. No more alcohol, no more sloppy diet. paying attention to his exercise, paying attention to his fundamentals, more so than he ever had throughout the first 50 years of his life. He was paying attention to how he was exercising, how he was sleeping, how he was eating. Was he getting outside enough and getting natural light, getting sunlight? He even started to bring in a little bit of fasting, a little bit of intermittent fasting. 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Mattie really upgraded his lifestyle from his 50s onwards. And anybody who knows him as a picture of health. An extremely fit individual. 2 months before his big, ugly primary surgery. 2 months. The big, ugly primary surgery happened in May 2024. 2 months before that, in March 2024, he had run a 24-kilometer race through the Mourne Mountains. He was doing mountain running. That was 2 months before this really ugly surgery. He was up in the mountains. 24 kilometers, or whatever it was. So people know Mattie as this fit, robust, healthy individual. Yet here he is, no longer with us. There are many people on the planet who are grossly out of shape, morbidly obese. They smoke, they drink alcohol, they have a shit diet. They don't do any of the fundamentals well. They don't eat well, they don't exercise, they don't sleep, they don't get outside and get sunshine. They don't do anything in the form of any intermittent fasting, nothing. And they actually consume things that are damaging to their health, like drugs and cigarettes and alcohol. And these people will outlive Mattie. Mattie died at 63. Last week when he died, 63 years of age. There was a lot of steam left in the engine, lots of life years left on the table. That's what makes it more of a tragedy. And for those who know Mattie, it must be shocking. It must be shocking to see someone so healthy, so fit, so robust, so vibrant with life, gone. Even when they look at other people who look in terrible shape compared to Mattie. They couldn't move out of their own way. They're a physical mess. Yet here they are still living. And this is the thing, folks. What we need to realize is the following. When you enter the game of life, you, me, anyone, when we enter the game of life, what you must understand is that there are no guarantees. And I think people don't realize this sometimes. When you were born, whether you know it or not, you signed a contract with life. When you were born, you signed a contract. And on that contract, life's contract, let's call it, you agreed that by entering into the game of life, there are no guarantees. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you see, folks, one of the mantras that we have here on Bandido Talks is take what you can and give nothing back. Now, when people hear me say that, they think, you selfish piece of shit. You don't want to help the rest of humanity. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Bandido? You should be giving more of your money to charity. You should be sacrificing your own existence to help others. Well, you see, that is not how the Bandido thinks. And one of the Bandido's mantras is take what you can and give nothing back. And I'll tell you why this is one of my mantras, because it's very relevant to what has happened with my dad and to other people who have passed away. What you must realize is that the universe is constantly trying to take from you. What do I mean by that? The universe is chaotic and disorderly. We have this thing called entropy. Entropy being the disorderly, chaotic nature of the universe. When you think about it, folks, when you think about the human body, and you think about all the different organs, all the different tissues, all the different chemical processes that go on in your body, it is an absolute miracle that we as humans and as animals are able to function as this coherent mass of cells. When you actually understand how the human body works, and you don't need to know it in tremendous detail, but if you do just a little bit of reading and education on the human body, you will realize how incredibly sophisticated and complicated the human body is. And the scope for things to go wrong in the human body, when you realize how complicated it is enormous. And the universe, folks, is a disorderly, chaotic place. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed or transferred. And the universe is constantly trying to transform and transfer energy throughout its entire space. You can't create energy and you can't destroy it, but you can transform energy. And we are just a big bundle of energy. That's what we are. Now, the human eye cannot see all of the little atoms that we are made up of. We are made up of teeny weeny little atoms. But the human eye isn't sophisticated enough. We need microscopes, high powerful scientific tools to be able to see all of these little particles that make up our body. But we essentially are just made up of all of these little atoms and particles. It's incredibly sophisticated, and the universe is constantly acting upon our bodies. The chaotic, disorderly nature of the universe is constantly trying to transform energy. And so as a result, the fact that your body is able to persist for 70 or 80 years pretty much without a major hiccup is a miracle in itself when you realize just how chaotic and disorderly the universe is. And that's the thing. This chaotic, disorderly nature of the universe is acting on your body all the time. What do I mean by that? Well, what do you think an illness is? What do you think cancer is? What do you think any problem with your body is? We have all these names: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, a torn ligament, a strained muscle. We have all of these names. But fundamentally, what is it? It is disorder within the body. That's what it is. Disorder and chaos within the body. In other words, it's entropy manifesting itself within your own body. We call it an illness. We say, oh, there's something wrong with your body. And what do we try to do? Well, we try to get treatment. We try to find ways to restore balance to the body. But because the universe is so chaotic and disorderly, your body is constantly fighting against the universe to maintain balance. And so when things go wrong with the body, this is the disorderly, chaotic nature of the universe acting upon your own cells and atoms that make you up. And so when you enter this life, folks, when you enter the game of life, you sign a contract that says there are no guarantees. And why is it important to realize this? Well, it's important to realize this, folks, because you shouldn't be getting sloppy or complacent with what it is that you have, because your body is so complex. There is so much scope for things to go wrong in your body. And what happens when things go wrong in your body? There is disorder. That is what cancer is. It's unregulated cell growth. It's essentially the little ticker, the little clock on a cancer cell moves quicker than the other cells in your body. And because this little clock moves quicker on a cancer cell, it grows quicker. And it outpaces the growth of the normal cells in your body. And what happens when a cancer cell outpaces the growth of other normal tissue? Well, speed is a killer. If you have liver cancer and the tumor is growing quicker than the surrounding normal tissue, then that tumor is going to outcompete the other tissue, and then you get organ failure. But we have all of these names: cancer, heart disease, whatever it is. What you're really seeing, folks, is chaos and disorder in your own body. We call this chaos and disorder an illness, which is fine. We have words for all sorts of things. But remember, folks, illness is just chaos and disorder in your own body. And then what do we do with our treatments and interventions? We try to restore balance. We try to get rid of the disorder and the chaos and restore harmony and balance. That's what the ideal scenario looks like: harmony and balance. Now, when you enter into life, as I've already said, you sign that contract that says there are no guarantees. And it's important to know that the universe is a disorderly, chaotic place, and it's constantly acting on your body and your life, trying to transform energy and essentially feed the disorder of the universe. And this is why I say, take what you can and give nothing back. It sounds selfish, but when you actually realize from the moment that you enter into life, the universe is constantly, every second of your life, the universe is trying to take from you through its disorderly, chaotic nature. You're always fighting a constant battle against the universe and its chaotic nature. As soon as you enter into life, your body here on earth, it's trying to stay together as a functional, healthy mass. And so this is why I say, you take what you can and you give nothing back, folks. And that doesn't mean you don't help people. It doesn't mean that you are a piece of shit or an egomaniac. But what it does mean, folks, is that you should always be looking after number one first and foremost. Always looking after number one. And once number one is catered for, then if you want to, with your spare energy, then you can look at maybe helping other people and offering value elsewhere. But if you haven't got your own house in order, what the fuck are you doing? The universe is trying to take everything from you. And that's not because the universe is this evil force. It's just chaotic and it's disorderly. And that's normal. That's normal for the universe to do that. But you need to realize that as soon as you enter life, whether it's you, me, or Mattie Lennon, we are always battling against this disorder and chaos of the universe. We are made of all of these little particles, all these little atoms that we can't even see. And it's an absolute marvel that the body is able to stay together in this mass the way it does and function the way it does. Now, that's one thing, realizing that. The universe owes you nothing. And if you are wandering around in this life thinking that the universe owes you, you are a dipshit. And you're going to get caught off guard by the chaotic, disorderly nature of the universe. And so when you enter life, you must understand that there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees for you. There are no guarantees for your loved ones. It's part of the deal. It's all part of living. What makes life so wonderful? Think about it, folks. What actually makes life so worth living? What makes life so worth living is the fact that your time and attention is finite. What does that mean? It means someday you will run out of time and you will run out of attention. And when that day comes, there's no more living on this planet. And so the prospect of death is actually what gives you the impetus to live the best life that you can. So when you sign life's contract, when you are born, whether you like it or not, you must understand that there are no guarantees. The universe, with its chaotic, disorderly approach, is constantly acting on your body. Your body is extremely sophisticated and complicated. There are many things that can go wrong with your body. And when something goes wrong with your body, yes, we call it illness or injury, but really, what is it? It's just chaotic, disorderly processes happening within your own body, within your own cells. It's disorder. What do we do when there is disorder in the body? We have an intervention or a treatment. What's the point of the intervention or treatment? It is to restore balance and to get rid of the disorder and the chaos. Now, why am I even saying all this? Well, I'm going to tell you why, and this is the big lesson from part one. What is the name of today's show? No regrets. And that's what we're going to come on to now. And this is important because once you understand that you enter this life with no guarantees, once you understand that the universe is very chaotic and disorderly, and that this chaos and disorder is constantly acting upon your own body and your own existence, once you understand this, you realize that it is a futile exercise to think that you can fully control your destiny and the outcomes in your life. You cannot control 100% the outcomes in your life. You cannot control the outcomes of your sporting endeavors. If you play a sport and you play a match, you cannot 100% control the outcome of the match. You can't 100% control whether you're going to win or lose. In business, you can't 100% control if your business is going to be successful. You hope it's going to be successful. You do everything you can, but you cannot 100% control for the success of your business. And also, folks, you cannot 100% control your health. So no matter whether it's a match in a sporting context, business, or your health, you cannot 100% control any of the outcomes in these different domains. You cannot 100% control the outcome of a match, a sporting event. You cannot 100% control the success of your business, and you cannot 100% control your health. And you know why I know this? Because if you could, and if everybody could 100% control all of these things, then everybody would be winning all the time in sport. Everyone would be winning all the time in business, and nobody would die before the age of 85. If you had full control over the outcomes of sport, business, health, your relationships, everything, then nobody would lose in life. Everyone would be a winner. Is that what happens, folks? Is everybody a winner in life? Of course they aren't. And do you know why they aren't? Well, this is the thing. Outcomes, folks. The ultimate outcome, winning or losing, in no matter what it is that you are doing, sport, business, health, your relationships, it doesn't matter. You cannot control 100% the outcome of anything. Why? Because there are always uncontrollables in any particular equation. Let me give you an example with sport. If you play in a team sport, let's say you play soccer. You are playing, I don't know, in midfield. Okay, so you play in midfield. And of course, you want to win the match, isn't that correct? You want to win the soccer match. And you play in midfield. Well, let me tell you some of the uncontrollables in a soccer match. You have 10 teammates, 10 separate individuals with their own abilities, with their own talents, with their own circumstances, with their own psychology. You've got 10 independent people on your own team that you can't control. You've got 11 other people on the opposition's team that you can't control with their own talents, abilities, psychology, and life circumstances. You have a referee that you can't control, who is going to do whatever he is going to do. You have the weather, which you cannot control, and it could have some sort of a significant impact upon the match as well. You have the pitch that you are playing on. Is it a good pitch? Is it a bad pitch? You have the crowd out around watching the match. Depending how big the crowd is, how vociferous they are, how vocal they are in their support or condemnation of one of the other teams. Even in something like a soccer match, there are so many things that you do not have control over. They are uncontrollables. You can literally do nothing about them. Same in business. You could have a great business. It could be just wonderful. And then the government goes and prints a whole bunch of money, devalues the currency, sets inflation through the roof, and now you're fucked. The government increases taxes. Now you're fucked. The government increases minimum wage, meaning the people that you now employ have to be paid more. Now you're fucked. These are all uncontrollables in business. You can't control what the government does. You can't control the economic climate. You could have a great idea for your business. But there are uncontrollables which could literally affect the outcome of your business endeavor. Just like there are uncontrollables that can affect the outcome of your soccer match. It's the same with your health, folks. What have I just said? The complexity of the human body. If you go and do some basic education on the human body and how complicated the human body is, you will realize that it is a miracle that the human body or any living creature is able to function in the way that they function. It is an absolute marvel that the human body can live a very high quality existence for 70 or 80 years without basically any negative thing happening to it. When you understand just how unforgiving the universe can be, how disorderly and chaotic it can be, and when you realize how complicated all of these chemical reactions that are taking place in your body, all of the different tissues and organs and their functions and how they are linked within the body. They don't even work in isolation, they work together. When you realize all of this, you realize how incredible it is that you can actually function at all. And because the human body is so complicated, and because there are things in our environment that we have no control over, you may think you're doing a great job with your health, but have you ever thought about the air pollution outside? The air is polluted. Have you ever thought about the chemical residues or pesticides on your food? We need to eat. We need to breathe air. These are uncontrollables to a degree. Now, some people will say, oh, well, I buy organic produce. Reality check, they use pesticides on your organic produce as well. The only way for you to get around that is to literally grow your own food. And how many people are in a position where they can literally self-sustain themselves by growing all of their own food and eating all their own calories? Not very many people are in those set of circumstances. Most of us have to go to the shop. We need to buy food out of the shop. Most of us are in those circumstances. The skill that it would require to live a self-sustaining existence whereby you live out on some mountain in, God only knows, Tibet. You live out in the Tibetan plateau, out near India. And up there in the mountain, the air's really clear and it's not so polluted. And you're able to literally grow and produce all of your own calories. And so you don't get chemical or pesticide residues and you don't get air that's so polluted. How many of us are in those circumstances? Not very many of us. So for most of us, there's nothing we can do about polluted air. Somebody might say, oh, well, you can go out and wear a mask. Well, that's very feasible as well, isn't it? Go out with your big industrial mask, looking like a big retard. How are you going to communicate? How are you going to go into the workplace? How are you going to live your life with that on? Again, is it potentially possible to do it? Yes. Is it practically possible for most people to do it? No, it isn't. So you have polluted air. You have residues on your food. The house in which you live. The paint that's been put on the walls of your house. The materials that have been put together. The dust that comes out of those materials when you are living in your house. The clothes that you are wearing. The dyes that have been used. The detergents that you're using in the house. Or the deodorants that you're using on your own skin. All of these things. People who are spraying things in the air. There are lots of uncontrollables in life that can affect your health. And your body is just so complicated that all it takes is a few things to go slightly awry in the body. And now you have a problem. You have an illness that needs an intervention. What is an illness? An illness is just disorder within the body. And so even in life, there are many uncontrollables. Wi-Fi, 4G, these big electrical towers, are they giving off things that are affecting our health? This is what I mean. You, with your own health, are even in a position where there are uncontrollables that are just bombarding you left, right, and center. Now, what is the isolated effect of all of these things? I'm not exactly sure. What's the combined effect of all of these things? Chemical residues, pollution in the air, radiation, 4G, Wi-Fi, building materials, all of these things. What's the combined effect? We're not exactly sure. But what I do know is they do tend to fall into the category of an uncontrollable. We need to breathe. We need to eat. And most of us aren't in a set of circumstances where we can actually practically do away with the air that we are going to breathe outside or the food that we are going to consume in a supermarket or the house or dwelling in which we are going to live. Even your own health isn't 100% controllable because number one, there are things in the environment that are affecting your health and they are here to stay whether you like it or not. And then number two, your body is incredibly complicated, very sophisticated. There's a lot of scope for things to go wrong in your body due to the sheer complexity of the entire mass itself. And so even your health, you do not have 100% control over your health. And to bring this back to our episode, my dad, Mattie Lennon, was he a really healthy individual? Yes. Did he do, especially from his 50s onwards, did he do all of the right things? Yes, he did. He lived as health-promoting an existence as anybody could hope to live in the modern world. So, why do I say all of this? Well, you see, folks, when you sign life's contract, there are no guarantees. And by logical extension, in life, you do not have 100% control over outcomes. You have a certain control. And that's now what we're going to get into to round off this particular show this morning, or this afternoon now. This sounds deflating. You may be listening to this and thinking, well, what the fuck is the point? Here's your dad, Mr. Fit, Mr. Healthy, doing all the right things, and he dies, age 63. You may be saying, sure, what's the point? If he can be taken, then what hope is there for the rest of us? And this is the thing, folks. Remember, when you enter into life and you sign life's contract, there are no guarantees. That is the first thing. Number two, you don't have 100% control over any outcome in life. There are always going to be uncontrollables in anything that you do. So you never have 100% control over anything. But this leads into the big lesson for this particular episode, for part one. What you want to do, folks, when you live your life and when you enter into life's game, do you know what it is you want to do? Is have no regrets. That's why the episode is called No Regrets, Part 1. You want to have zero regrets. And how is it? This is the big thing. How is it that you have no regrets in your life? I'll tell you how. It's very simple. You do your absolute best. That is it. That is how you have no regrets. You do your absolute best. You give your absolute all in this life. And if you do that, independent of what is going to happen, you might lose the match. Your business might go under. Or like Mattie Lennon, you might lose your life. But you know what you want to be able to do, folks? You want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and you want to be able to say, I gave my absolute best. And that is the position of power that we all want to be in. Because if you've understood what I have talked about across the last hour and 10 minutes, you will realize that there are no guarantees in life and that the universe is constantly imposing its chaos and disorder upon your body and your existence. And you will also understand that you don't have 100% control over anything. But there's one thing, folks, that you do have 100% control over. And do you know what that is? It's your effort and your ability to give your best. That is what you have 100% control over. And in this life, folks, all we can do is control the controllables. The uncontrollables are what they are. They are out of our control. They are beyond our influence. But the controllables, we do have agency over the controllables. We do have influence over the controllables. And the biggest controllable that you have in your existence is your effort and your capacity to give your best. And this is exactly what Mattie Lennon did up until his last breath. He gave his absolute best. Did Mattie Lennon 18 months ago get an absolute shitty circumstance or situation bestowed upon him? Yes. He had a big ugly surgery. I've already talked about it. He then got a secondary diagnosis of liver metastases and ileal mesenteric lymph node metastases. These are uncontrollables, folks. We're talking about health. We're talking about the absolute complexity of the human body. Mattie Lennon, what he did do is he controlled the controllables as much as his personality and his own life circumstances would allow him. In other words, that's a fancy way for saying he gave his absolute best. Now, this is the harsh thing about life. And again, when you sign life's contract, you have to realize that there are no guarantees. And sometimes when you give your absolute best, you get the result. Sometimes when you give your absolute best, you are victorious. A lot of the times when we all give our best, in sport, in business, in our relationships, in terms of guarding our own health, sometimes when we give our absolute best, we are victorious. We win. But you know what also happens sometimes, folks? Sometimes you give your absolute best. And you know what happens? You don't win. You don't win. And Mattie Lennon, my father and my friend, and this is the thing, folks. Yes, he was my father. Yes, there is a genetic bond between us. That is true. But folks, believe me, the Bandido, if the Bandido does not like you, it doesn't matter whether you are related to me or not. I will not be talking to you. I will not be spending time with you. And even though my dad has this biological relationship to me, if I did not like him, I couldn't give a shit if he's my dad or not. I wouldn't be spending time with him. And that's why I use the word friend, because my dad, he earned my respect. And I earned his. And that's why I call him a friend. When I became conscious in this world, and I started to interact with my dad, what I was looking for wasn't for a father-son relationship per se. I was looking for a friendship. That's what I was looking for. And that's what I got. And whenever I started to interact consciously with my dad, probably around 8 or 9 years of age, I think I was fairly conscious at that stage. When I started to consciously interact with him, he earned my respect. And that's the thing. We had many's a great discussion, many's a great debate. And the only reason why I spent so much time with my father, and I spent a lot of time with him, I wasn't one of these people who, whenever I got to 18 years of age, got myself a woman, got myself a wife, got myself kids, and then pissed off and saw him maybe 8 or 9 times a year. No, I met my dad 3 or 4 times every week. If I was in the country, if I was in Ireland, I would meet up with my dad. I would arrange to have runs with him. I would arrange to meet up with him. I would talk about things he was interested in. Why? Because he was my friend. I admired him. I didn't admire him because he had some biological relationship to me. Oh no. If you ever meet me, what you will realize is you're going to have to prove to me that you are worthy of my time. Because the most precious resource that we have on this planet, folks, is our time. So if I'm going to hang out with you, you're going to have to prove your worth to me. And it was no different for my dad. He had to prove his worth to me, and I had to admire the man, not because he was my biological father, but because I admired him as a human. He had to prove to me. And he did. That's the thing. He absolutely proved to me that he was a hugely admirable individual. He had lots of wisdom, lots of value to offer to me. And I just admired the man. And he had my admiration. That's why I met up with him 3 or 4 times a week. That's why, ever since I've consciously been interacting with him, that is why I've always maintained an extremely close relationship with him. Why I would continually meet up with him to go for runs, to go down to the field and play some hurling. Even though I wasn't competitively playing hurling anymore, I still went down to the field and had a puck around with him because I liked his company. I admired him. And that's the thing. I also understand that there are no guarantees in life. And no matter how much I love or care or admire someone, I do understand that the universe is a chaotic, disorderly place, and that the human body is incredibly complicated, and there is a lot of potential for things to go wrong with the human body. And so what have I done? What have I done over the last, let's say 23 years that I've consciously known my dad? And what do I do with everybody that I care about in my life? Well, I'll tell you what I do, folks. You see the people who I most care about? I give my absolute best towards them. I give my absolute best. Every time I talk with them, every time I interact with them, I'm not on my phone scrolling. I'm not meeting up with them out of obligation because I need to check the box today. Oh, I've met up with my dad. Yeah. I've met up with my mom. Yeah. Okay, box ticked. I didn't really interact with them. I wasn't really present. I didn't really give my all to them in the moment when I had met up with them. I'm just ticking off the box. That is what I don't do. And I'm going to tell you why it's really important that you don't do this either. Because you see, whenever someone dies, folks, and we're going to talk about this over the next few shows as well. When someone dies, and when I say someone dies, when someone you care about dies, let me tell you the position that you want to find yourself in. You want to find yourself in a position where you have no regrets with respect to your interaction with this individual. That is the position of power. Because if you understand that there are no guarantees in life, and if you understand that the universe is chaotic and disorderly, and if you understand that the human body is very complex, and that this disorder and chaos is acting on the human body all the time, and that things can go wrong with the human body, and life can go out just like that at any moment. If you understand all of that, then you will realize that at any moment, your life could change. You could lose someone that you really care about. And so what do you want to do, folks? Knowing that this is how the world works, What you want to do is you want to control the controllables. And do you know the biggest controllable that you, me, and everybody else has full 100% control over? Do you know what that controllable is? Giving your absolute best and giving your best effort in every moment of your life. No matter who you are talking with, no matter what it is that you are doing, you have 100% control over your effort. And so here I am, 8 days on. I'll never get to see my dad again, living in the flesh here on this planet. I won't get to see him again. He only died at 63. He left many years of life on the table. But let me tell you the position of power that I find myself in. And this is one of the big lessons from today's show. Am I sad that my dad has died? Of course. I would be a sociopath if I wasn't sad. So of course I'm sad. That's normal. That's natural. Sadness will find its balance within your own mind with the passage of time. Totally normal. Everybody will pass through their phase of sadness. For some people, it will last longer than others. And I'm no different. Of course I'm sad that my dad has died. And the reason why I'm sad is because he was one of my best friends. So one of my best friends, one of my inner circle, who I've known ever since I've been conscious, has now passed away. Of course I'm sad. And that's normal. But you see, this is the thing, folks. Sadness is normal. And sadness, as I've said, it will find its place. It will find its balance in your own mind with the passage of time. That's fine. Do you know what won't find its balance with the passage of time? Do you know what will nag at you for the rest of your waking hours? If you have regret or guilt about what you should have done when that person was living, that you will not recover from. The sadness you will recover from with time. But you see, if you find yourself in a position where you are feeling regret about not having invested time and attention and conscious energy into someone that you cared about, and now suddenly they have died, you will have to live with the regret that you didn't invest appropriately when they were living. And that will not diminish with time. That will eat away at you for the rest of your waking hours. And that is why, folks, today's show is called No Regrets. Mattie Lennon can have no regrets about his life. He can have no regrets about the way in which he lived his life, and he can certainly have no regrets about the way in which he tackled the last 18 months since his big, ugly primary surgery right until his last breath. The man gave his absolute all, given his physical limitations, given his own personality limitations. We all have them. We all have limitations with our personality. We all have physical limitations. As I've already said, Mattie had a big, ugly surgery that he was very lucky to survive. And that, of course, had ramifications for his treatment. How could it not? Losing your entire colon, losing 54 lymph nodes, losing your appendix, losing all the tissue around your colon, losing a part of your small intestine. Of course, that is now going to present you with a physical limitation. And also, we have our personality limitations. So Mattie, with his physical limitations and his personality limitations, we all have them. Within that framework, Mattie can have no regrets. He gave his absolute best throughout the last 18 months and throughout his entire existence. He can look himself in the mirror and say, you know what? I tried. I tried my best. And on this occasion, my best wasn't good enough. And I lost the ultimate battle, which is the battle of life. But remember, there are no guarantees in life. So all you can do is control your controllables. And Mattie Lennon controlled his controllables as well as he could. He tried to leave no stone left unturned. And he unfortunately did not come out victorious in this particular battle. But it wasn't through lack of effort or trying. And there's a big difference, folks. If Mattie Lennon did not try, if he gave up, if he succumbed to all the negative feedback from the piece of shit oncologists that he was dealing with, and from all the unhelpful medical folks who he dealt with, if he had succumbed to all of this negativity, lack of hope, and coldness towards his circumstances, then he would be disappointed in himself. But you see, he's not. Mattie Lennon has no reason to be disappointed in himself. He gave his absolute best. And that's all anybody can ask for. That is a controllable that Mattie Lennon could control. And he controlled it as well as he could. And not only did Mattie control it, but this is applicable to all of us, to me and to you watching. We all have people. We have husbands, we have wives, we have children, we have friends in our life that we really care about. The universe, folks, offers you no guarantees. And if there's one thing that you take away from this show, is that you do not want to have regrets about any of your interactions with any of the people who you most care about in this life. And if you have been sloppy up until watching this show, if you've been sloppy and you haven't been giving your best to the people that you most care about, well, now is the time to start changing that habit. Take it from me and take it from anybody else who has lost a loved one. I lost my dad 8 days ago. But you see, folks, some people might say, anybody who has met me over the last 8 days is probably surprised. They are probably surprised because they expect to see me in tears. They expect to see me distraught. They expect to see me a crumpled mess on the floor. What were they greeted with? They were greeted with someone who has absolutely no regrets about the relationship that they had with their father and their friend. Am I sad that he's gone? Yes. Did I do everything possible within my control to save that man's life? Yes, I did. I investigated. That has been my life's purpose for the last 18 months. Researching and getting that man information to try and save his life, to try and do everything that I can or could. Why did I put so much effort into this process? For the very reason that I'm telling you all of this right now. I knew 18 months ago that there were no guarantees. And I know in general, there are no guarantees in life. And the only thing that I have full control over is my effort and my capacity to give my best. And so 18 months ago, when I got that phone call, when I was out in Spain, from my mother, that my dad is going in for emergency surgery. All right. Didn't see this coming, caught me by surprise a little. I was out enjoying myself in Spain. I had just sealed a year-long contract to live out in Spain with my brother. We had our own aspirations and ambitions. But whenever we got the news, we both knew, okay, this is going to be a roller coaster. And my brother and I, my mother, Mattie's wife, we all knew that the most important thing that we could do is make sure that we give absolutely everything to Mattie to try and save his life. We give him absolutely everything. We do everything that we can to try and save this man's life and to try and enrich this man's life. And do you know why we did that? Do you know why I got rid of the contract? Lost some money in the process. Totally took a different path to the path that I was taking 18 months ago. Do you know why I did that? Because of exactly what I'm telling you all right now. You want to be in a position where you have no regrets about anything in your life. Zero. You should be striving to have no regrets. How is it that you get yourself in a position where you have no regrets? It's very simple, folks. You give your absolute best to the things that you are doing and to the people that you most care about. And you see, when you do that, you let the dominoes fall wherever the dominoes are going to fall. Sometimes they fall in your favor, sometimes they don't. In the last 8 days, the dominoes did not fall in my favor. I lost my friend. I didn't want to lose him. But this is the thing. I didn't lose him through lack of effort on my behalf, and he certainly didn't lose his life through lack of effort on his behalf. Everyone, me, Mattie, my brother, Una, I can only speak for those 4 individuals. I can't speak for anybody else. But let's just say, when Mattie was assembling his team, I was there, my brother was there, and Mattie's wife, my mother. We were 3 integral parts of his team. And I'm not going to speak on behalf of anyone else, because I don't know intimately what everybody else was doing or thinking. But for those 3 people, me, my brother, and my mother, and I know Mattie as well, obviously, all 4 of us throughout this process, and more importantly, folks, prior to this process, prior to Mattie's diagnosis, we have always given each other, the 4 of us as a family, we've always given each other our absolute best. It's not as if 18 months ago we went, oh shit, we better start spending time with one another. Whoopsies, we have been very sloppy. No. The 4 of us, we have always never taken each other's time for granted. We've always given each other our absolute best. We've always met up. We've always spent time consciously, sincere, honest time, not with a phone, not distracted. We've always met up. We've always given our absolute best to one another. And I'm telling you this, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I know some of you dipshits out there are sloppy. And you take for granted what you have in this life. You don't realize that you are owed nothing from the universe. You don't realize that there are no guarantees in this life. You don't realize how complex your body is. You don't realize how chaotic and disorderly the universe is. You don't realize that the universe is constantly trying to take from you, trying to transform your energy and transfer it elsewhere. You don't realize that entropy is at play all of the time because you are on autopilot and you're a dipshit and you're not paying attention. Will reality check to you, Mr. or Miss whoever. You have no guarantees in this life. And there are many things that are fully out of your control. There are many uncontrollables that you have no influence over. And so things that you may think aren't going to happen in life may well happen. Good or bad. And for you watching this, what you want to take away from part 1, this episode, is that you want to get yourself in a position of power in your life. when it comes to a situation like this? How do you get into a position of power in your life when it comes to what it is that you're doing or the people that you most care about? How do you get into a position of power? You have no regrets. How do you get into a position where you have no regrets? You give your absolute best and your best effort throughout every moment of your life towards the things that you're doing and towards the people you most care about. And when you give your best, you will find yourself in my position right now. 8 days ago, my dad died. My friend passed on. Am I sad? Yes. However, am I guilty and do I have regrets about having not spent enough time with him? Am I guilty and do I have regrets about having not invested sincere attention, paid attention when he was speaking, took time to go and travel with him, ask him questions about the things that he's interested in, try and be valuable and useful to him? Am I guilty or regretful about any of that? Absolutely not. And this is why I sit before you right now on a live stream. I'm not welling up with tears. I haven't cried yet throughout this process. And that's not to boast. That's not a boastful comment, because everybody has their own personalities. Some people are more emotional than other people. And I'm not saying that there's any problem with crying. But if your tears come from a place of guilt and regret, then you will have to live with that for the rest of your life. If your tears are coming from sadness, that's fine. As I've already said, the sadness will find its place in your mind with the passage of time. You will have the beautiful memories of the person that you most cared about. You will have little mementos about their existence. The sadness will deal with itself. It will find its own, it'll find its own place in your mind with time. But if you are shedding tears because you are regretful about having not invested in your dad, in your mother, in your friends, in your brothers, in your sisters, if your tears come from guilt and regret, well then this should be a wake-up call for you. Because if your tears are coming from regret or guilt, you are not in a position of power. And if you aren't in a position of power, that means you haven't been controlling the controllables. What is the ultimate controllable that you have full control and influence over? Your effort and your capacity to give your best effort in every waking hour of your life. That's the position of power you want to be in. Mattie gave his absolute best. We gave, as his team, our absolute best. And sometimes, as I've already said, when you give your best, a lot of the times, your best is good enough and you get the result. That is true. But sometimes, folks, even though you give your absolute best, sometimes the chips don't fall in your favor. And that goes back to what I've already said. The universe owes you nothing. There are no guarantees when you enter this game of life. There are many uncontrollables that surround you in your environment that you have no agency over. And so as a result, all you can do in this life, whether it's something that you're interested in getting better at or the people that you most care about, your children, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your mother, your father, whatever it is, whoever it is. All that you can do, folks, is control the controllables. And the one big controllable that you have 100% control over is your effort and your capacity to give your best effort. Once you give your best, you can do no more. You hope that the dominoes or the chips fall in your favor. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But all you can do is wake up each day, go to the mirror, look yourself in the mirror, and feel the pride and the self-respect that you generate from knowing that you've given your absolute best to any project that you're involved in or to any person who you love, care, or admire. So that is the big thing that we take away from part one. No regrets. Mattie Lennon, throughout the last 18 months and throughout his 63 years of life, has no regrets. He was an industrious, productive, busy, thoughtful, wise, thoroughly decent human being who did so many good things and so many right things in his life. And throughout the last 18 months, he got a lot of shit thrown at him. A lot of physical alterations or physical changes to his body, and a lot of psychological shit thrown at him as well. And he stood tall, and he rebounded, and he gave his absolute best. And that's all any man or woman can hope for in their own life or in circumstances like his. And the same goes for us as onlookers or observers. If you are watching this and you have any morsel of guilt or regret about how you are currently dealing with people that you care about, wake up call, take it from me. And you don't even have to take it from me. I'm not the first son to lose his father. This has happened many times in human natural history, and it will happen many times in the future. Just ask anyone who has lost a loved one. I'm telling you it now, that if you are feeling guilt or regret about how you are interacting with the people you most care about, this is your wake-up call. The universe owes you nothing. My dad was doing all of the right things. He was a very fit and healthy individual. He had a very nuanced cancer case. And of course, the universe is constantly in a chaotic, disorderly state. So things can change, and there are no guarantees. So you, watching this, please take on board the big lesson from my own personal circumstance with losing my own father 8 days ago. Get yourself in a position of power. How do you get in a position of power? Have no regrets. How do you get yourself in a position where you have no regrets? It's very simple. You give your absolute best every waking hour of every day. You give your absolute best towards every project that you are involved in, or every endeavor that you are involved in, and you give your absolute best to the people you most care about. So that if something does happen, if you do lose someone that you care about, if they are in a car accident, if they have an illness, if something happens to them, even though you will be sad, remember, sadness is normal and natural. Being sad isn't a problem, per se. That will find its place in your own mind with time. But for the love of living, for the sheer love of living, please do not find yourself in circumstances where you have regret about having not invested sufficiently in the people that you most care about. Please do not have regrets with respect to having not given your full, let's just say, undivided attention towards someone that you care about. Because if you have guilt or regret, you're going to live with that for the rest of your life. If you're like me, sad, yes, that your friend has passed away, but knowing that you have zero regrets about how you have interacted with this person throughout your life, then you find yourself in the ultimate position of power, whereby you have your own pride and your own self-respect intact. You can look yourself in the mirror without a flinch. And you can continue to live your existence knowing that you've given your absolute best to that person, and you've also guaranteed your own self-respect and pride. So no matter how it is that you feel about the passing of this loved one, you can at least look yourself in the mirror with pride in your own effort. And as you continue to live your own life, you can then honor that person by getting busy living. Because that is what the person would want you to do. That is what Mattie Lennon would want me to do as his son and friend. He wouldn't want me wallowing in self-pity. He would want me to get up, be industrious, be productive. And that doesn't mean I live a paranoid existence through his lens, thinking, oh, every time I have to make a decision about something, I need to think, what would Mattie think? You know, would Mattie frown upon me? It doesn't mean that at all. The best way to honor someone is to get up and get busy living. Because the person who has passed on, it would pain them to realize that you are sacrificing your own existence, your own time, engaging in a wallowing activity that is not productive and isn't going to change anything. And so those are the lessons, folks. Lord Jesus, we've been going for almost an hour and 50 minutes. I hope you got some value out of our stream. I was actually going to do a segment in Spanish, but I think we've went on for so long that I think we'll just do all of these episodes in English, and then we'll get back to our English part 1, Spanish part 2 next week. So we'll stick to English for the time being. Maybe I'll talk about this in Spanish at some other stage. But I hope you've enjoyed the show, folks. Again, feel free to give a like to the stream. Feel free to let me know your comments down below. And of course, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you find what it is that we are doing here interesting. Lots of content coming your direction. Stay tuned tomorrow. Saturday at 11 a.m. we will be back here for part 2 of When Your Dad Dies, our new series. Now, before I actually bunk off, I've completely forgotten about our live chat. Now, maybe there's nobody with us live. What is it? 1:15 in the afternoon. Let me have a look at the live chat, see if any of you guys have been commenting, then we'll draw our show to a close. Normally I get to the live chat sooner, but I've been on a roll. On a roll here, honoring Mattie. He'd be laughing and smiling, listening to me ramble on here. Let's have a look at the live chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. All right. Let's have a look here and see, do we have anybody who's on live? An hour and 50 minutes. Lord God. Now, let me get the live chat set up. Are we going to get a bagel? Are we going to have nobody in the live chat? Well, it looks like we have one person in the live chat. We've been spurred the bagel. I thought we were on for a bagel. But we've got Quizzed22 in the live chat. Our faithful subscriber, Quizzed22. He's back in the live chat to let us know what he thinks about today's show. He's hung in there for an hour and 50 minutes. Let's see what Quizzed has to say. He says the following. Had similar experience with oncologists as well. So you are not alone, Bandido. Well, look. I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody else's experiences. Quiz 22 is saying that he has actually had a similar experience to the Bandido. And I stand by what I said. The oncologists that I have dealt with, along with Mattie, have been pieces of shit. I hope they're watching. You, sir, are a piece of shit. You are a retard. You should be ashamed of your position of authority that you have in the medical field. So I'm going to bestow upon you the gold medal for being the biggest piece of shit that I've met in the last 18 months. Congratulations, gentlemen. Gold medal for the biggest piece of shit. So Quiz is saying that he's had a similar experience. Folks, let me put it to you this way. Have you seen The Shawshank Redemption? Many people have seen The Shawshank Redemption. And one of the big themes throughout The Shawshank Redemption, it's the reason why, or one of the reasons why people love the movie so much. It's because Andy Dufresne and Red engage in this sort of dialogue about how valuable or not hope is. Red is skeptical. Red isn't sure if hope is a good thing, because hope can lead to delusion. Andy, though, he thinks hope is a good thing. He thinks that you should never lose hope. No matter if you are going down with the sinking ship, you should always maintain hope. You should always think that there's some way in which the circumstance can turn around, no matter how slim the probabilities are that you're going to turn the ship around or turn the circumstance around. Hope is a good thing. That's what Andy tells Red. And you see throughout the movie how Red slowly starts to realize what it is that Andy has been saying. Hope is a good thing. And we should always, no matter how bad our circumstances are, whether it's Mattie's terminal cancer diagnosis or any other circumstance that we have in our own life, we should always have hope. There's always room for optimism and for things to turn around. And the reason why I call the oncologists that Mattie dealt with pieces of shit and retards who should be ashamed of their position in the medical field, the reason why I say that, and I have no problem saying that, if I saw these people, I'd happily tell them that they are A, a piece of shit, and number two, a retard. No problem. The reason why I say that, and I use such strong terminology, is because these oncologists, these pieces of shit, what they tried to do was rob Mattie of hope. They tried to tramp him into the ground. The man has just received the worst case scenario, a terminal cancer diagnosis. Believe me, folks, most people are not stupid. Most people, when they receive a diagnosis like that, know exactly what that means. They don't need an oncologist to literally take a handful of salt and rub it into their open wounds, their open psychological wounds. That is the last thing they need. People know what terminal cancer means. And so for an oncologist who's in a position of authority to educate, for an oncologist to literally sink the boot in to my friend. Put it like this, folks. Anytime my dad had to go and meet the oncologists, I was always there with him. And every single time, I fought valiantly for my father and my friend. I asked all the right questions, and I took them on head on. I had done more reading than them. As I said, remember, they're not only pieces of shit, they are retards. They don't keep up to speed with what's happening. They don't read the most recent literature. They don't know what's happening in the field of cancer. They are whores for Big Pharma. Whores. And I don't like whores. But the oncologists that I dealt with and that Mattie dealt with were whores for Big Pharma. They could see no further than their conventional treatment. And not only did they say that, but they literally tried to take out the biggest mallet that they could get and hammer my dad and my friend into the ground. And I wasn't having that. Not at all. And Mattie wasn't having that either. We both stood up, we left the office, and we said, fuck you. Fuck you. You piece of shit and you retard. Because you know what? We have no problem with you giving us your opinion. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. If you think that this treatment is the best option, that's fine. Okay. But to then go out of your way to try and doom the man to death, telling him to get his affairs in order, telling him that there is no hope, you are incurable, you need palliative care, the side effects of your treatment will be this, and this. Your quality of life will be lousy. We can do nothing more for you. No, we don't want to hear about what you have been investigating. No, we don't want to try and integrate what it is that you've been learning. And no, we don't want to try and learn anything from you. We are just going to stand here as whores for Big Pharma on autopilot, prescribing our nonsense, garbage, independent of whether you have evidence or not that it's actually an applicable treatment. Mattie and I stood up and said, fuck you. And I would tell them that right now. Fuck you. You are a piece of shit and a retard. So Quiz is saying he had a similar experience. I'm not saying that all oncologists are pieces of shit. I'm not saying that all oncologists are retards. But the ones that I met were both a piece of shit and a retard. Such is life. Remember, folks, the universe owes us nothing. The universe didn't owe Mattie and I a good oncologist. That's the way life works. But the thing here is, folks, no matter how bad your circumstances are, you should never lose hope, and you should fight with honor until the end, if the end is going to come. You should never lose hope. You should never give up the fight. And Mattie never lost hope, and he never gave up the fight. Even though he ultimately lost the war, he never gave up. He always gave his best. And he never lost hope. And remember, as Andy Dufresne said, hope is a good thing. Maybe even the best of things. And no matter where you are in your own existence, don't let a piece of shit retard oncologist or some other piece of shit retard try to essentially drain you of hope. Never let that happen. Remember, there's always a way out, folks. Now, the gap for you to slide through might be very slim. Your probabilities might be very, very, very much not in your favor. But there's always hope. And so that's unfortunate that Quaized has had a similar circumstance. He's had his own battle, perhaps with his own loved ones, in the field of cancer. But we are the masters of our own ship. And when I say that we are the masters of our own ship, the captain of our own destiny, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is you have control over your mind. You can control your mind so that you're always giving your best. That's a decision that you have control over. Because ultimately, how is it that you're able to give your best? You're able to give your best because you've consciously made that decision that you're going to do so. Everybody has the ability to do that. It's why I say you are, in a sense, the captain of your own ship, because you can decide what outlook on life you want to take. If you want to drain yourself of hope, then how about it? You go and do that. You go listen to the piece of shit retard that's telling you that you have no hope. Mattie didn't do it, and I certainly didn't do it, and I will not be doing it going forward in my life. If I am surrounded by people who are intent on robbing or draining me of hope, they can piss off. I will not be dealing with them. And Quaized has been through it too. As I've said, I'm not the first to walk this path with their father. There are many other people who will be in similar circumstances. So anyway, I see one more comment has just came through. Let's have a look and see. I don't want to miss any live chats. Okay, so we have a message through from J. JGZ 2IB. And he has sent through the hashtag #1 emoji saying #1 episode. I'm assuming that means a good episode. A top episode. We appreciate that, Jay. Jay has also been a very consistent live chatter here on the show. So we appreciate the comment, Jay. We also appreciate from Quaized. Wished we have another live chat in from Quaized. Just as the Bandido was going to draw close to the show, thanking Jay for his comment, saying #1 episode. We've got 2 more episodes coming your direction, Jay. This is just us getting started. This is just us getting started. This is part 1, no regrets. Part 2's coming tomorrow at 11 a.m. But we appreciate the comment, Jay. Let's see what Quaized has come in with another comment. What has he said? He says the following. Ha. Imagining you in the being voice now to the oncologist. Quote, and you think this gives you power over me. Crying smiley face emoji. You know what? You're probably going to laugh at this, but whenever I would go into these oncology meetings, I would have my red bandana on, I would be in my tank top, with my silver chain, and I could see the oncologists. They were looking and going, who is this? Who is this imbecile? And then I'd start to talk. And then we'd get into a debate. And then I would piss the oncologist off as part of the strategy. Because when you piss someone off and they get angry, when someone is angry, this is a little strategic thing for all of you folks watching. When you get someone angry as part of your strategy, an angry person makes mistakes. And so whenever I would go in and I would get a feel for the oncologist and see how it is that he's going to deal with my dad and my friend, and I'm conscious that I don't want my dad losing hope. I don't want him to feel like he's being hammered into the ground. So I would give the oncologist, I'd give them a chance, feel it out, see how it is that they're doing. And if I get the impression that they are here to try and hammer my dad into the ground, well then I would start to implement a different strategy. And what I would do is I'd get them pissed off. Because you see, I'm well read. I know the terminology. I know how to speak their lingo. So they can't accuse me of being stupid. They can't accuse me of that. My questions are valid. And so I get them pissed off. And when they are pissed off, they make mistakes. And the mistakes are very important because when they make a mistake, they realize that they've made a mistake, and then that pisses them off even more. The pissed off anger compounds and they make more mistakes. And so as a result, I'm then able to get more valuable information out of them, actually, through their own errors. And it was good for my dad. And the reason why it was good for my dad is because he was able to see me fighting his corner. He was able to see that I was on his team. I was here. Every inch of this path that was going to be walked, I'm here right beside him, being logical, asking good questions, well read, well researched. So I'm not talking out of my hole, but I'm asking targeted questions. And sometimes I'll put a little spin on the question to try and piss the oncologist off. A little bit of fighting fire with fire, we could say. We had an episode on that. And so yes, when Quizzed says the being voice, and you think this gives you power over me, Quizzed is correct. The oncologist, why should we allow them to have absolute authority or power over us? Yes, they have passed through 7 years of state-funded university education. I'm not saying their opinion is invalid at all. I think it's good to have all information on the table, all options on the table. No problem. But if you, as an oncologist or any other person, if you are going to try to hammer me into the ground or hammer someone that I care about into the ground, expect resistance, and a lot of it, and expect me to say that in typical being fashion, you do not have power over me. You are not a superior human being to me. I can read just as much as you can. And I'm entitled to ask questions in the interest of my friend and my dad. And so Quizzed is absolutely correct. Imagining in Being's voice, you think this gives you power over me? Folks, don't put oncologists or anybody on a pedestal. They are just another person with another opinion. That's fine. I think it's good. In a circumstance like Mattie's, it was very important that Mattie has all of the options on the table. All of them. And so that's what we did. We got all of the options on the table for interventions and treatments. And we have no problem with that. But if you, as an oncologist, if you are then going to go out of your way to literally impose your authority on the patient, tell them that their situation is hopeless and that they need to get their affairs in order and that they're going to die. If you are then going to go that step further, you are going to be met with resistance and you are going to get grilled. I will be there with my red bandana and my white hat and my tank top and my silver chain. I will be there to fight my friend's corner. Especially when there's a whole bunch of shit being thrown at them. And so no, we should not allow these people to have 100% authority over us. They are an opinion. Put the opinion on the table. Consider it. And if anybody ever tries to tell you that your life is hopeless, or that there's just generally no hope left for you, you need to distance yourself very quickly from those people. So anyway, that was Quizzed's second comment. Let's see. Have I got any more comments? Let me do one more check. That seems to be everything, folks. So I do want to thank Quizzed. I want to thank Jay for getting active in the live chat. It's always a better show when we have engagement from you folks who are watching. As I've already said, get down into the comments section. Let me know what you thought about our show. 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's the longest show we've ever done, but a good show indeed. So anyway, that draws everything to a close. Let me know your thoughts on everything that we have talked about. Feel free to join us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Irish time. Here on YouTube, we will be back with part 2 of our series, When Your Dad Dies. Keep an eye out for the thumbnail. Keep an eye out for more information about that whenever I get that all uploaded. And of course, folks, have a look at the thumbnail of today's show, because you're going to notice something interesting. Yes, you will see my dad. That's my dad at the center of the thumbnail. But look in behind him. There's a young chap on a bicycle. And that young chap happens to be the Bandido. And what was happening in that particular picture? Well, what was happening was my dad was running 4 years ago a marathon in the countryside. That was him in the middle of his marathon. There were so many hills. It was a really difficult course. He did it in 3 hours and 37 minutes at about the age of 60. And I was there behind him on the bicycle with my little rucksack of supplies, little dried apricots, dried fruit, a little bit of, sometimes you would have those little energy, I can't even remember what you call them, but they're little sort of mushed fruit. Those little energy packets. So there I was on the bicycle, doing the marathon with him. It was one of those fine moments where you were able to have a really productive activity. My dad loved running, and I loved the fact that I was able to do this extremely difficult countryside marathon with him. It was part of the Camino Waka. It was a really good event. A lot of people walked the route, but Mattie was the only one who decided to run it. Everybody walked because it was a really difficult route. Lots of hills, challenging terrain, but Mattie ran it. I was there with him every step of the way on the bicycle. A really great memory, a fantastic accomplishment. He gave his absolute best in that particular moment. He gave his absolute best in his life, and he gave his absolute best in the last 18 months. Folks, that is all we can do. And with that, folks, with the message being giving our absolute best in this life, it is over and out from the Bandido.